Welcome to the second half of our teleconference, Grand Conversations Talking About Books. Dorothy and I are still hosting, but we've changed guests.
Changed partners.
Karen Smith was one of the early advocates of literature study in the classroom. Together, she and Ralph Peterson, a professor of education at Arizona State University, have explored the possibilities and potentials of intensive study of literature by children. It is a pleasure to have both of you two here today. You've set new standards for all of us. Karen, I'm going to start with you. Will you introduce your classroom, share with us some of your basic beliefs and philosophies that guide your work with literature and children?
Sure, I'll be glad to. The clip you'll be seeing today from my classroom was taken in 1990, so I just wanted to clarify. My hair's a lot darker. I'm a little thinner then, but I have to say my fondness and heartfelt caring for the teachers and children at Herrera School remain the same. Herrera is a wonderful K-8 school situated in the urban setting in Phoenix, Arizona. It's predominantly a Hispanic community, and it was and continues to be a wonderful place to learn and teach. The one thing nice about Herrera is there was a shared belief about literature and children and books coming together and teachers and children and books coming together that just permeated the school. So when children came to me at the 5th and 6th grade level, they were well grounded in what literature is and what literature can do for our lives.
In my primary classrooms, Margie, I do very much like Karen does. The first part of the year is spent in reading lots and lots of good books. I read extensively. And by reading extensively, the children are able then to have conversations and dialogue. And just as Karen does, I demonstrate those kinds of conversations I'd like for them to have. It's important that we set up that community of memory and build upon those books so that later we can refer back to that dialogue and conversations that we've been having. I think that choosing books and sharing books is a very central part of what I do, and after they've read for periods of time, then they too get in pairs and exchange books, and it's wonderful because then one word gets to another. It's by word of mouth.
Word spreads around.
Word gets around.
I like that little comment. We have a question in the audience from Mary Peach.
Hi. I'm a primary teacher also, and as I'm listening, I'm hearing all of us talking about how we're selecting the books for the children, and we are reading to the children, and we are doing this with the children. And I know that everybody here acknowledges the value of the children's contribution, but if stories are part of the fabric of our culture, not geographically, but fabric of our culture, what implications of selecting books for children are there? Why aren't we getting the kids to bring the books in or selecting the books more focus on the kids reading to each other or with us rather than when we do the literature study, and I'm not being critical, I'm just trying to think this out loud. When we're doing the literature studies with the kids, how come they're not bringing their culture or selecting the book that represents their culture, and what implication is that for
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your question by Karen, and then I'll come to Kathy Short, and we'll get a couple responses on this. Karen.
Okay, well, I think that at least in my classroom, the kids have a big part to play in the books that are selected. I run the whole classroom with a classroom government, and one of the important subcommittees in our classroom is a book selection committee. And every year they keep track of the books we have. I give them reading teacher, language arts, horn book. They're always looking for books that they want the next year. And that committee over the summer selects most of the new books that will come into our classroom the following year. I take them to the bookstore. And so they have a big part to play, and believe me, I just appreciate Lawrence Yep and Shanta Begay and the people, and I'm very aware of that. And so I do make limitations maybe in the opposite way, that you can be sure those books are on my shelf and those are part of the culture because I believe in that multiple ways of knowing. I think it's a wonderful way. And so maybe I impose in that perspective that those books are part of the choices they make. When I say we set parameters.
We've got several callers online. Minneapolis, if you'll just hold on, I'll get right to you. I want to just go and pick up Kathy Short's response to this question about selecting books for children as opposed to having children select books for themselves.
One of the issues that we've been talking about that a lot in Tucson, and we're concerned about the fact that we were selecting the choices for children, saying, here are 6 books or here are 6 text sets. And so what we've gone to is really looking at the inquiry cycle and saying that there needs to be a powerful time of being able to wander and wonder. And so during that time, both we and the kids pull out as many kinds of books as we can and simply fill the room with it. The kids contribute, teachers contribute, and kids read very, very broadly and then bring those books to sharing. And it's out of that that the books then get selected by everyone involved in that classroom, teachers and kids, to go on into literature circles.
Oh, that's nice.
So that, and for example, we're finding that where before we would have put together text sets on topics like, if it's on family, grandparents, you know, parents, so forth, the kids are coming up with much more complex ideas that they want to address through the sets. And so it's really changed the dynamics of the discussion and the whole process to establish that time of being able to wander and wonder together, and the sets come out of that.
Oh, great. Okay, Minneapolis, are you on the line? We'll take a question from you. How is it? Is it cold up there? Who have we got? There's always these moments when I wonder if this is really going to work. Are we connected? Well, we might want to...
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Hi. Jerry?
Yes.
This is Margaret Finney in Minneapolis.
Oh, hi, Margaret.
I'm representing a group that braved the minus 50 temperatures, wind chill here today.
I'm on sabbatical in Hawaii, Margaret.
One of the things that we noticed in the selections you showed of small groups was that the majority of the children were girls. And that may just be coincidence, but it brought to discussion the issue of gender and the kinds of reading and books that boys versus girls might like to read, the differences in the ways of discussion when boys are involved or with girls, and the roles taken by boys, or perhaps a single boy, in a literature group. And we wondered if maybe Karen or Kathy or any of you might comment a bit on gender.
We've got very little time left, and I need to make some closing comments, so don't use it all up. But one of the questions that always comes up is this involvement with parents, and how do we convince parents that this program is really better than the old program that was available to them, the one that they know, and they think that we have now wantonly abandoned. What do we do? What have you done? Karen, let's go to you.
Well, the first thing is we had a policy in our school building, and so all of us included reading books and literature, whatever they wanted, as part of the homework assignment. So parents came to know that every evening kids would be reading 20 to 30 minutes, and that became part of the process. We brought parents in and had them participate in literature study groups just so they would see what the process is. Most parents, once they had been in it, said, I love doing this. I always said the best measure of parent involvement and acceptance of the program is when Sabrina came in one day and said, I didn't bring Gilly because my mother's boyfriend's aunt is reading it. I think that they found the power of story through us, but we did a lot of work to show them why we were doing it, how kids were engaged, and we did have to give letter grades, so we found ways of communicating with parents at that level too. So we felt that parents had bought into the power of literature and understood that.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that people just have to live a different curriculum. I mean, once you've actually invited them in to talk about books, that's why I think some of the work with adult book clubs is so important even for teachers, because I think once you've talked about books and once you really got involved in that discussion of books, there is no going. Dorothy, do you have any parting shots? You get one word and then you get to turn it back to me. What is a concept you think that people should walk away with?
Well, hearing Debbie and Karen and Jean and Ralph talk about literature study, I keep thinking how important it is. Children working with good story, they're intellectually important things, socially, personally important things, that literature, the love of it and the study of it for our children, it's their rightful inheritance, and we have to give it to them.
Nice.
Great. That's very nice. Debbie Manning, can we just go to you and have a parting shot? What is a word you want us to carry away? What do you want teachers to know? What do you want them to do?
Word gets around.
That is great. Unfortunately, our time has run out. Although there are many more things to discuss, there really is no getting it right. the key is simply to begin. I want to thank all of our guests, and especially the teachers and children shown on the videotape segments. I think the motto for this conference was probably best stated by one of Debbie Manning's children in her classroom: word does get around. We hope this conference has started some new conversations. We hope also that you spread the word, and if you're not already doing so, begin literature study in your classroom tomorrow. As we run the credits, we will list other professional development activities that you might participate in. On behalf of the National Council of Teachers of English, the Whole Language Umbrella, and PBS, I join our guests in thanking you for joining us today.